everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Dude Therapist. We have Lauren Sharpe here. Lauren is a cacio at pepé pasta loving registered dietitian and business strategist. She's the founder of the Empower Method, where she helps women create their healthiest relationships with food, stop thinking about food all of the time, and finally eat that pizza, cake, or whatever you want without guilt. She's also the founder of the Instagram Reboot, where she teaches nutrition professionals how to turn followers into paying clients. Lauren aims to empower women from embracing their bodies and enjoying the foods they love to take back their power and owning their own business. She's a powerhouse. This was a great episode, a fun episode. Y'all know I love dietitians because my wife is a dietitian, so I'm kind of biased to dietitians. And it's an important topic to talk about our relationship with ourselves and how that impacts with our food. And go check out her amazing account. You won't regret it. As always, let's get right into it. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Dude Therapist. You know I'm super excited when I get to talk to dietitians. We have had a few on. And just every time I talk to dietitians, it just reinvigorates how amazing the work is. And it makes me appreciate my wife, who's a dietitian, and the work that she does. So Lauren Sharpe's here talking to us today. So if you can introduce yourself to the listeners, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hello, I'm Lauren. I'm a registered dietitian and I own my own private practice called Lauren Sharpe Nutrition, and I help women really heal their relationship with food and their bodies.
Amazing. And so I always ask professionals, what got you into that world? Like, I know why I'm a therapist and I have got my story. So what, if you're okay with sharing, like what kind of got you into this world of being a dietitian?
Yes, I am an open book in this sense, and I will try to give the Spark Notes version. But essentially, in high school, I played lacrosse. I played field hockey. I was very big into sports. I never really, there's those people that are like, I don't get it. Like, I've never worried about weight. Like, it's you never have to worry about it. And I started to gain weight when I had quit lacrosse my senior year, and it was kind of my first experience of like, okay, what do I do about this? Do I cut carbs? What do I do? And the more that I Googled things and tried to figure things out for myself, I was like, this is insane. There's so many different recommendations. Like, I can't cut out sugar. I can't do these are just not sustainable things. But at the time I didn't recognize that, right? I just saw these recommendations and I was like, oh, okay. Like, I guess I'm just not strong enough to do that because I love my sugar or whatever. So fast forward, I was like, I'm a perfectionist and I also really like science. So I like to understand things from the root. So I was like, I'm coming up on college and I was looking at the University of Delaware and they were like, oh yeah, we have an entire program for like setting you up to be a dietitian. And I was like, okay, I really like the school. They have this amazing program. It seems like this is just where I'm meant to be. So I go into school, and I'm not sure if you've talked to any other dietitians who have had this experience, but at least at Delaware, there is not every, but a lot of us in the nutrition major became very obsessive about food. Mm-hmm. We didn't learn, hopefully it's changing a little bit now, but we didn't learn about intuitive eating. It was very much just like vitamins and, the logistics of nutrition. So I became very obsessive about it. I became mm-hmm. very obsessive with the way that my body looked and how can I manipulate nutrition in order to change my body. And also I had severe anxiety and panic attacks at the time. And I was really subscribed to this idea of food being medicine. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, well, I heard that if I cut out sugar, my anxiety is going to go away. Mm-hmm. If I only eat whole foods, my anxiety is going to go away. Mm-hmm. And yeah, to an extent, I'm a big believer that food can be medicine, but also it's not going to, 100% fix the chemical imbalance in my brain that was happening. Right. So I did that. It was Halloween. So what would it be? This was 2015. So I don't know, a lot of years ago now. But it was October and I was like, I can't eat the sugar that's in the Halloween candy. So I'm just going to completely cold turkey cut out sugar. And I went absolutely insane. I would like smell brownies that my roommates would make. And I felt like I was addicted to drugs. I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
want this so badly. And it
Mm-hmm.
would spiral me into like a freaking panic attack. So I, at that moment, called my mom and I was like, I've been so good. Like, my anxiety has been so much better, but I don't know what's going on. And she was the one that was like, I know that you're like trying not to eat sugar. Like, do you think that's a little much for you? And at the time, I literally didn't even realize because I was
Mm-hmm.
like, no, I'm being healthy. Like, that's the
Mm-hmm.
healthy thing for my brain to be right now. Right. And then I was like, actually, I think you're right. Like, I definitely am obsessing over this. It's causing a lot more stress than when I was eating sugar itself. So that was kind of my revelation moment of like, okay, I don't want to be a dietitian that necessarily wants to help people lose weight. I really want to help people have a healthy relationship with food. So that led to me. I went into my dietetic internship. I always knew I wanted to be in private practice, and that's kind of what led me to this particular niche of being a dietitian.
And I know the funny thing is that that story sounds so similar to my wife.
Really?
When she was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
she got obsessive over the steps
Mm-hmm.
before eating certain things.
Yep.
So she would just walk on a treadmill while reading a book to
Mm-hmm.
get the food that she wanted to eat for herself. Like this was
Uh-huh.
no one else was pressuring her.
Yep.
And she realized just how unhealthy it was, which pushed her into being a dietitian. And she
Mm-hmm.
is so anti weight loss as a
Mm-hmm.
focus of her practice,
Right.
like as a like her how she practices being a dietitian, that's why she doesn't until like intuitive eating became popular in the past, I don't know, 5, 6 years. It was like I don't
Yeah.
want to go into private practice because like everyone just wants me to help them lose weight quickly. And like
Mm-hmm.
that's not my goal. And you know, one of the things that I was so attracted to her when we met was that you know, you hear someone's a dietitian, the pressure, you know, oh, I'm sure they just eat smoothies all day and just salad. Like I'm sure they don't eat food,
Yep.
right? Because
Yep.
like dietitian equals quote unquote big air quotes health. So health in my
Right.
mind is smoothies, green foods, salads,
Right.
you know, oh, they don't eat pasta, pizza, they don't eat cakes, cookies, ice cream. Like how
Right.
could you? Right? Right? That's like the thought process. So we went on a date
Yep.
and she said that she loves to eat Ben and Jerry's. And in moderation, it's her first love is Ben and Jerry, right before me, and I accept my role in the hierarchy of love. I get it; they're delicious, and but she's like, I don't eat a tub, I eat my craving, so that
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't eat me, right? That's what she says.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't eat my craving, the craving eats me, because she's
Yep.
like, if I don't eat a craving, I'll eat 17 other things to try to fill that craving, and then eventually eat the craving. So I've just add 1,000 calories just to fill a craving. If I just would have eaten my craving, it would have been just great. And I think that
Exactly.
that's a weird thing for a lot of people. Like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
want something, I can eat it. And, you know, it's just a sad world. There's such a pressure. And I feel this way too. I'll be, you know, vulnerable and honest
Mm-hmm.
as a therapist. Like that I need to have my stuff together mentally
Mm-hmm.
or I shouldn't be practicing. I got anxiety and ADHD.
Yeah.
Like straight up, I've had ADHD since I was 8. I
Mm-hmm.
have anxiety. I had a panic attack when my daughter was born. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
on medication to
Yeah.
make sure that I can be the functioning person that I want to be. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
still a damn good therapist. Right? So I think it's such a
100%.
sad thing that a lot of the people, like, does a doctor not get expected to get sick?
Right.
Of course they're humans. But all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, you had a piece of cake. I remember my wife would tell me when we go to people's houses for lunch, this comment always happened. I mean, always happened for holidays. Now we're Jewish. We have a lot of Jewish holidays, and we're going through right now. It's like basically 80 billion Thanksgivings in like 2 weeks. And
Yeah.
like everyone's like, oh my gosh, Ariella, don't worry. I made something healthy. And Ariella goes, thank
Drives me
you.
nuts.
Thank you. But
Yeah.
like, I eat everything.
Right.
And they're like, you do? Like they don't even realize. Like, yes,
Yep.
I eat everything. I don't eat the entire container of it, but I eat
Right.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to pull back to a question. So I love the story because it really connects to my heart, my wife, and I love it. And it's just something that I hear so often. It's so sad. You hear from Caroline Dooner and all these people who are like the anti-diet people and all that kind of
Yep.
stuff, right? And Colleen Reichman, and she was on the show also, and she was talking about a similar story, just like this pressure.
Hmm.
Why is wellness, right? Not to get too controversial, but we can because I love it. Why is it always so extreme? Because in the world that I live in as a therapist, we are anti-black and white thinking. It's
Hmm.
not all or nothing ever. But in the
Right.
wellness world, it's either all or nothing. Either you do this diet
Yeah.
exactly or you fail. Either you
Right.
buy all of these person's vitamins or you suck, right?
Right.
Why does it, like, why can't, and you might not have an answer, why can't the wellness world, which is a multi-billion-dollar business, be about balanced life and gray?
And I think you just said it, because it's a multi-million-dollar business. It needs to be
Billion.
polarizing. Billion,
It's
billion.
billions.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's like 50 billion or 52 billion or something insane. But I think that's why, is because in order for them to be successful, it has to be this polarizing thing that people fail and that they have to continue to come back to. If they just had long-term
So
success,
abusive.
yeah. Like I always say to my clients, they're like, okay, well, how long is this going to take? I'm like, everybody's process is different. But at the end of the day, as much as I love working with you, my goal isn't to keep you forever. My goal is to teach you techniques and things so that you can go out on your own. The diet
Yeah.
culture industry, the goal is to keep you coming back so they can continue to make money.
Like, my wife is very sassy about this sometimes. Like, there are certain people in our family that are very into like supplements and vitamins. She's like, the food you eat has that. And they're taking like bitter melon and elderberry and all these things that like, okay, maybe you read an article. And the funny thing is that the wellness world has articles. So it looks very presentable, legitimate.
Yep.
So it's like, oh, there's an article that says if you have acai berry and elderberry every day, you're never going to get sick. And it's like,
Right.
oh, great, I'll do that. Right? I don't want to take medicine, real medicine, or actually change my lifestyle. I'll just pump supplements. Or, again, I don't want to be controversial. Like in the community that I grew up, Optavia, it was Medifast back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Optavia.
Yep. Octavia.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but like MLM, a multi-level marketing company.
Yep.
Legitimately, everyone knows it is.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it brands itself on quick and easy weight loss. And it works for that. But it's so unhealthy.
Insane.
And when you explain to someone like, you're starving your body. Like I recently saw a TikTok, and I want to talk about this more. I recently saw a TikTok. I was so excited to talk to you because it was like building up to this conversation. Like I saw a TikTok. Someone's like, this is how they said it. I lost 30 pounds in 5 weeks. Here's how I did it. Okay, 30 freaking pounds in 5 weeks. They literally had black coffee in the morning, if that's what you like. When most people don't, but you like black coffee, go for it.
Yeah.
They had black water, which is something like a charcoal water that has
charcoal. Yeah.
whatever. I don't know why anyone would actively drink charcoal. We put charcoal to get things out of our body.
Right.
Medical professionals use charcoal to suck things like when you overdose.
Yeah.
They pump charcoal in your stomach to suck it out.
Yep.
So I don't know. Someone thought that was a good idea to brand it as a wellness thing. And then he doesn't eat till 4 p.m. And then he eats a steak, a very lean steak, and a lean chicken, and has Halo Top, and eats about 950 to 1,000 calories a day. And he was like, go me. And basically the whole point of the TikTok was, go me, I lost 30 pounds in 5 weeks. You freaking starved yourself.
Yeah.
And then
it's going to come back.
I know. And then the crazy thing is the branded of intermittent fasting. Fasting's in the word. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so healthy.
Yep.
You're fasting.
Yep.
I just fasted on Yom Kippur. It is not fun.
Yeah.
And people are choosing to do that. So like,
Yep.
as a dietitian, how do you feel there is a way to combat that as a dietitian in the world, and as a dietitian and dietetics as a world? How do you convince people? And it's not our job to convince people, but how do you help people not be so pulled into that world?
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously I teach a lot of different techniques and strategies in my programs, but one of my favorite, I guess, philosophies and things that I talk about is, what is health? right? Because
Ooh.
we obsess over how health is this one thing that we are one, fully in control of, and two, the thing that controls it is diet, exercise, and weight.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So for somebody that's struggling with this, you guys, like, for the audience, you can literally do this activity and write down what is your current definition of health versus what really is health, right? And you
Mm.
might struggle with that at first because you're like, no, health is diet, exercise, and what my weight
Mm-hmm.
is. But there's so much more to health. I'm pretty
Mm.
sure there was a study that came out that showed 36% of our health is dictated by individual behavior, meaning your sleep, your diet, your exercise, all of that, which is like 36% means that we are, and that's not even like that 36% isn't diet alone, you know? Like
Only
there's
36. Wow.
socioeconomic factors, there's I don't know, I'm forgetting them right
That's
now,
a huge
but
part.
basically there's so many different, if you live in a food desert, I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many different facets, right?
Yeah.
And we obsess over these things that are less than 36% of our health. I mean, a huge one, genetics, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in this marketing and all these things that are being sold to us,
It's
they
like they
wouldn't
make
be
it brand as like
successful if we knew
80%,
that.
90%.
Right. So
Wow.
it's like, oh, you can turn this gene off with this special oil in food. And it's like, at the end of the day, if only 36% of my health is dictated by what I do, like I'm just gonna live my life with what makes me feel good, and
Yeah.
that's that.
Recently, another vulnerable thing is I've gained a lot of weight the past couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I have Crohn's,
Mm-hmm.
and I legitimately used to vomit and have diarrhea every day
Mm-hmm.
for years.
Wow.
Well, the vomiting was like for like a good like year. I would vomit every other day. I could
Wow.
not keep food down, so I was legitimately underweight. And it's
Mm-hmm.
funny because at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm fat because I have a little roll here. Or I would go, wow, I feel so fit because I'm lean.
Mm-hmm.
I look back at pictures at my wedding, I look sick.
Mm-hmm.
I was sick.
Right.
And now that I'm in remission and my anxiety is in check, I've gained weight. One, because of the
Mm-hmm.
anxiety medication, and two, because I'm actually keeping my nutrients in. And it is such a battle to accept that this is what healthy is. And my
Mm-hmm.
wife has said to me, like, Ellie, you're healthy. For the
Mm-hmm.
first time in your life, you are healthy and not vomiting every day.
Mm-hmm.
So get used to that.
Yeah.
And that's such a hard thing for people to accept because lean is mean, like lean is healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's something out there, to go into the topic of like intuitive eating versus anti-health. In the world that we're in today, this might be controversial, might not. We'll have a good time with it. The idea of, body at every size, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
have people like Lizzo, who I
Mm-hmm.
admire so much for her
Mm-hmm.
power and strength and freaking flute skills. Come on. I've seen videos of her dancing on the stage and playing flute. She's in such great shape to be able to
Yeah.
do that. But
Yep.
no one thinks she's in good shape because of her size.
Yep.
Two different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Size versus actual physical health shape,
Right.
right? In shape. My cardiovascular system can handle me running for miles. My
Right.
body might be bigger. And then you have such extreme people like, because we're saying like body positive every size or intuitive eating, right? And that I guess you can eat whatever you want and do whatever the heck you want with your body and just, die and be fat.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have to say about that? And the idea of intuitive eating, accepting yourself, and the idea that it's anti health
Yeah.
when it comes to the idea of what that means.
Uh,
Please, if you want to
I
go on a
mean,
rant, have a good time.
first thing is that you don't owe health to anyone. If you don't want to be quote unquote healthy, you can go and do whatever the hell you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Personally, for me, it's something that's important to me because it makes me feel my best when I feel healthy, right?
Yeah.
Second is, why do we accept that somebody can be naturally thin, but we don't accept that somebody could be naturally bigger, right? There's that person that is like, oh, she can just eat French fries and pizza all day long and she never gains weight and it's so unfair. But you would never say to a bigger person, oh, you try to eat salads all day long and you can't lose weight. That's so unfair,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just interesting that we've created this whole ideal around this specific body type that it's elite. It's I mean, there's so many different layers to it.
Can I jump in for that, and then of course you continue? You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you look at, I recently went to the Broadway show Six with my wife, so I got into like
Mm-hmm.
that old school like history, like getting into history a little bit more,
Yeah.
like everyone did for Hamilton. Back in
Mm-hmm.
the day, weight was success.
Yep.
When did that change? That weight is disgusting. Now I don't believe
Mm-hmm.
this. Okay, when did
Yeah.
that change? That weight is looked down as poverty,
So true.
disgusting, unhealthy, looked down upon. When literally the richest human beings were heavier or
Yeah.
bigger because they had riches to afford
Yep.
food. And
Yep.
now it's like, nah, you're a disgusting human being. Go
Mm-hmm.
fix
It's
yourself.
so true.
It's like, what the hell
Yeah.
happened?
I know. I don't
Now,
have the answer to it. I think the wellness industry changed it where they're like, okay, well now if you're wealthy, you can afford the juice cleanses, you can afford the diet
and the
pills and the
fancy
diet.
gyms and the fancy
Yeah.
trainers and all those things. Now, I'm
Yep.
not against. Someone recently asked me, actually, again, this is a very touchy topic for me because I'm, changing my weight and all these things. And I have a question for you about men's things. Because I
Mm-hmm.
hear a lot of dietitians like, well, I focus on women's, and I don't see people focusing on men's
Yep.
body image and health. I don't.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't see a lot. First of all, I don't see a lot of male dietitians, right? Just like there are not a lot of male therapists, right? It's the
Right.
helping industry.
Yep.
And there's so many men who need so much help with their body image issues.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh. Yeah.
I can just put myself in that category. I'm not going to throw anyone else in the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And someone asked me, are you okay with yourself like this? I have a little bit of a belly, a little round tire going on right now. And I'm a parent of two kids. I don't sleep that much. I'm
Mm-hmm.
eating really unhealthy because my brain is craving those things because I'm not asleep,
Mm-hmm.
which is a thing that my wife taught me. I didn't know that. And I don't have time to work out.
Mm-hmm.
And the question of like, are you okay with yourself?
Mm.
And I said, maybe not, depending on the day. But if you
Yeah.
take my blood work, I'm healthy. Isn't that what
Mm-hmm.
matters?
Right.
And no one cares.
Mm-mm.
People just don't care. So,
Nope.
can we talk a little bit about that idea that people view intuitive eating like this, like eat what you want mentality, which is
Mm-hmm.
not what it means? If you can give like a description of what it actually means from a
Mm-hmm.
clinician, from someone who practices with people, and even if you use it in your own life,
Yep.
and why it's not anti health and why people view it
Mhm.
that way.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of different components. One being that, again, in the marketing and all of that type of stuff, people are like intuitive eating, just eat whatever you want, whenever you want. I mean, even myself, when I first learned about it, I was like, that's BS. That just
It's
seems
like, what?
really, really horrible.
It's like a
Right.
dream
And
world.
then
Where's the
I
rainbows?
read, yeah, exactly. I actually read the books. I actually started to understand, oh, this is healthy, quote unquote, right? This is actually, in my opinion, the gold standard because I'm not restricting myself. I'm eating the foods that I enjoy, but I'm also so in tune with my body that the second that I need a vegetable, I am like, I know that I need a vegetable, right? So the key thing here is really permission. So, yes, you have permission to eat whatever you want, whenever you want. But at the end of the day, like you are putting together brain knowledge and body knowledge. So, my brain knowledge is all right, cookie is higher in sugar. And my body knowledge is it probably won't feel very good if I just have a cookie without eating something else first when I'm starving. And, I should probably have some protein first. So I can certainly eat that cookie if it's like convenience. I need some fuel. My blood sugar is low. I'm going to eat that cookie. But if I've got salmon in the fridge and some rice and some veggies, like I'm likely going to have that first to stabilize my blood sugar. And I'll feel much better if I have the cookie after, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
combining how, like, the brain knowledge of what is nutrition, what are the nutritional components of this food, but also body knowledge. How is this going to make me feel? And
Mm-hmm.
noting that something like a cookie or a pumpkin Reese's, like, it's body knowledge can be for your brain in terms of like soul food too.
And so then for that reality of once you have the knowledge, right, which
Mm-hmm.
is so accessible nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
Where does someone start that journey
Hmm. Yeah.
of like accepting the permission and becoming in tune? Like, because that's a
Mhm.
weird thing. Like, wait, I'm allowed to have pasta. I can have pizza. Okay, what?
Yeah.
What? No. Every person I've been to, every single conversation at a table has been, don't eat gluten, don't do this, don't do this, don't. Now it's like,
Hmm.
you can.
Right.
What's that journey like? For like, how do you start to say yes to yourself
Hmm.
and fight the shame and guilt that you might feel?
Totally. So it's interesting because I'll have a lot of people in my DMs saying, "Oh, I really want this. I really want food freedom. I want all of these things, but I'm absolutely terrified. I'm terrified of weight gain. I'm terrified I'm going to feel like crap. I'm terrified I'm going to be unhealthy." All of these fears, right? So the first thing that I typically have people do is I'm like, all right, well, we have to get rid of, and you're never going to completely get rid of it. I mean, we live in this world that's perpetuated with diet culture. So I say, how can we get rid of everything that you're in control of? You're in control of the apps on your phone. You're in control of what pops up on your social media. You're in control of, I mean, not totally, but your thoughts and how you're reframing them and all of that type of thing. Right. So, that's usually the first thing that I do. I'm like, delete your calorie counting app. And a lot of times I take different approaches, right? For somebody who's like, yes, I'm so done with this. I'm so ready to get rid of it versus the person that's like, absolutely not. I
Mm-hmm.
cannot give up that much control all at once. Then we'll
Mm-hmm.
slowly taper off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends. But I would say the first thing is to really take out anything that is supporting your current way of life in terms of food and
Mm-hmm.
nutrition with the guilt, the shame, etc. From
Mm-hmm.
there, we typically move on to hunger and fullness because when
Mm-hmm.
you're coming from a place of dieting and um, looking essentially to something else outside of your body to tell you what, when, and how much to eat, you have no idea. Without that calorie counting app, without that meal plan, without those times that you're allowed to eat within, you're like, what the heck am I supposed to do? Right.
Yeah.
So I try to give as much structure to my clients as possible because they're coming from a place that is an insane amount of structure. And they're like, what do you mean just do whatever I want? That's not going to be successful for them. So we typically go into hunger and fullness. And then from there, we're really understanding what are the foods that have been restricted prior. How can we incorporate them without it feeling overwhelming? And then at the same time, how are we combating the thoughts and the behaviors that are following and making sure that they're getting through it? It's going to be hard, but not to the point where
Mm-hmm.
there's so much fear that they're like, oh my God, this is horrible. I can't do it anymore. And acknowledging too that at the beginning, these foods have been restricted for so long, chances are you are going to feel out of control at first. That's just
Mm-hmm.
the reality of it. And being able to push through that and understand that your body needs to go through this phase in order to get to a place where it feels controlled and in control around all of these types of
Mm-hmm.
foods.
Because that to me, I think, is the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you start the journey, it can feel very out of control, where it could verge on like binging and
Yep.
this like a kid who comes home from like a candy shop and can just
Mm-hmm.
like a Halloween night where you're just shoving your face.
Yeah. And
So how
that's
do
one
you
of my
like go
other
through that? Like
favorite.
what? How do you go through that phase and then learn to like
Yeah.
pull back and moderate to a place that is good for you, not for anyone else,
Mm-hmm.
but good for you in that journey?
Yeah. So I think it's validating and finding peace that that's normal, right? If
Yeah.
you hold your breath for a long period of time, you're going to start panting to get that oxygen back, right? If you
Yeah.
have to go to the bathroom and you hold in your bladder for a certain amount of time, it's going to come out so fast because you pee so bad, right?
Yeah.
So our body, one, recognizing that your body is on your side, it is trying, it's all your body knows is survival. All it's trying to do is make sure that you are surviving. So by having these cravings and feeling like, I need all of this food, it's your body telling you something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you, I don't want to use the word necessarily pull back, but how does it eventually start to pull back is
Balance.
by continuing to incorporate these foods, continuing to give yourself permission, but also while bringing in gentle nutrition. So gentle nutrition is essentially how can we incorporate nutrition without it being obsessive? How can I say, I think that I would prefer to have the apple right now than the cookie without actually actively restricting the cookie,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, you're still giving yourself permission. I can have this cookie right now if I want to. But right now, I actually think I'm going to feel much better if I have an apple with some peanut butter and stabilize myself. And if I'm still wanting the cookie after, I'm 100% going to have it.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that, kind of what you were getting at before, where it's like, I want a cookie and I'm going to have something else and then I'll eventually have it. It's more so that brain and body knowledge of like, yeah, I mean, I could go for a cookie. It's not like an intense craving. That intense craving you should definitely satisfy, or else you're
Mm-hmm.
going to be thinking about it nonstop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something that's so interesting that like this idea of gentle nutrition
Mm-hmm.
is an awareness like it takes a lot of hard work to not obsess over things because it
Mm-hmm.
can be so easy to be pulled back into the world of obsession.
Mm-hmm.
And, and there's messages coming from many different directions about what is considered healthy and what is considered good and what is considered
Yep.
bad versus like, oh, like whole grains or things like that versus never eating carbs again if that makes you feel,
Right.
comfortable. It's all like the balanced moderation that takes. And here's the thing that I would say, and I'm not a dietitian, so correct me if I'm wrong, is you need to find the balance that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
So if your next door neighbor is doing intuitive eating or your sister, brother, mother, dog's, groomer is doing something, okay, so you that doesn't work for you because it's not you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I would also highly suggest finding a PCP that is not diet focused.
Mm-hmm.
I have found that when I go for my checkup and they ask me to get weighed and I say I really don't want to, they're like, well, we have to,
Mm-hmm.
which they don't.
No.
No one needs to know your weight.
No.
So find a professional that you feel comfortable with that you can talk to, not just a dietitian, but also a primary care doctor who's a medical professional who can
Mm-hmm.
talk about your blood work and what that means. Like, for example, my blood work came back that I'm pre-diabetic. I spoke to
Mm-hmm.
my wife about it. She looked at the numbers. She's like, you're literally 0.001 above the average. So you're in whatever, 0.01, whatever it is. You're literally, like, you're not scary pre-diabetic. You're just literally a point above the
Right.
medical accepted quote-unquote number that's pre-diabetic. You're not pre-diabetic.
Right.
Everything else is fine. But they go, by the way, you're pre-diabetic, change everything about your life. And you're like, holy crap, and you freak out.
Yep.
Diabetes, oh no, right? So I think if
Mm-hmm.
you find medical professionals that are more intuitive and compassionate about what it means to be human,
Yep.
I think that's super important. For you, when you see, you know, that idea of obsessiveness within, because you talked about your journey of like the anxiety. One of the things, I'm an anxiety specialist.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about obsessive patterns is control.
Mm-hmm.
Food is one of the things that we have so much control over.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we can feel so out of control because of it. So it's very easy for your brain to trick you based on anxiety to pick that as a controlled center. Just like cleanliness in a home, right? You can do things with your hands and buy more containers to put more things, and you can, clean differently. You can do all this stuff because it's so active and practical and you can see a result. Food,
Yep.
you can see that result. If I eat this and that, this and this happens. So just be careful because it's not just a wellness health obsession. It can be based in anxiety. If that's the case,
Yep.
there's more help than you need than just changing your lifestyle of food because it's
Yeah.
going to latch on to something else. So
Such a good point.
it's going to latch on to something else. And it's so easy to get pulled into the obsessiveness of food.
Yep.
And something that the journey I've been on is accepting my mood and how tired I am and what I'm into eating versus the guilt of like, well, I shouldn't eat that. It happened like last week. I was like, oh, I should eat healthier. I feel a little blah and out of it. Maybe I'm like, you know what? I freaking want pasta and cheese. I'm going to eat that freaking pasta and cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so happy.
Yep.
Like, isn't that what food's about, is to enjoy?
Right. Exactly.
Why is it
And
made to
speaking
suffer?
of speaking of the control, mine, it went to money. So my control went from food to controlling money. And I didn't realize it for a little bit. I'm a pretty self-aware person, but I was like, oh my gosh, it's just went from food to money. And especially being an entrepreneur, I have to track my expenses. I have to track, I mean, people do that anyway, but I really have to pay attention to it because I'm a business owner. I need to figure that stuff out. But to an extent, I was trying to control it so tightly that it brought me a lot more stress
Yeah.
than, and I would hold on to it even when I had plenty to spend. I was obsessively like thinking, well, what if it goes somewhere? And, money has a whole nother layer of things behind it, but mine definitely went to trying to control money after that.
So I've thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. If you ever want to talk, I'm always here. Now you're part of the Dude Therapist family, so you get my friendship, whether you like it or not. And so I got two more questions really on my mind. The first one is how this is like touches home a little bit for I think a lot of people. You're on this journey of intuitive eating, and you're adjusting your lifestyle and really making those changes that work for you. There's so and I feel this way about parenting. I'm a parenting specialist, so I feel this way about parenting. Like old school parenting is like reteaching adults that have been your parents or grandparents and how you want your kids or how you want to be talked to now.
Yep.
Old school idea of diets, right? How do you have compassion and educate the people in your life who just don't understand or don't want to understand and continue to push an agenda / their message?
So tough. So I think I have a current client that no matter what she does, her mom is not going to budge. She has fully dived into diet culture. There is absolutely no changing her mind.
Yeah.
So for someone like that, I think there comes a point where you just have to say, this is not my responsibility to change your views. However, at this point, and I always say it depends on the relationship. So if this is somebody that you see once a year at Thanksgiving, is it worth it to bring up a conversation with them and say, hey, do you mind just not talking about food while I'm here? Or are you like, you know what, I'm just going to go into that situation. I'm going to have some affirmations in the back of my head based on what they typically say to me. And I'm going to just go in with a good mindset, expecting this to happen. Versus somebody that you're living with on a daily basis who's driving you absolutely insane. And I mean, we're so easily influenced by the people around us. So if the person that you're living with is trying keto and then they're trying this and they're seeing success, that's going to be really challenging for you to resist. So in that scenario, again, depending on your relationship, it's not your job to change their views, but it is your job to protect yourself and your headspace. So if you want to have a conversation with them, you can certainly say something along the lines of like, hey, I'm really working on my relationship with food and my body. If you could, I'm so happy that you're happy with this journey, but if we could just refrain from talking about diets or our bodies when we're together, I would really appreciate it, right? It doesn't have to be anything dramatic. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It's just this is what I need from you, and I'd really appreciate it if you could provide that.
Recently, someone said to my wife, wow, it looks like you lost a couple of pounds. You look so much better. And my wife's like, well, thank you, I haven't. But and then walked away and whatever, and later had a nice calm conversation. Like the fact that you're saying I look better means that before I was either unattractive or disgusting.
Yep.
When I wasn't. And I already feel that way about myself, postpartum and all these things. We have an 8-month-old, and the idea of well, by this point you should have lost the weight kind of conversation that is no one's business.
Yep.
And I think she's a beautiful, magical human being. And the fact that someone did that hurt me. To hear someone say oh, you look better.
Yeah.
And it's funny, in my head, when I've gained weight, over the years, I've had people, I've waxed and waned because of my health, my physical health. People have commented on my belly, oh, you got a little bigger there, boy. You're filling out. I used to be always underweight. And it's funny, one of my mother-in-law's best friends, who's very, very upfront, straight up kind of person.
Yep.
It's whoa, you really filled in. You look so good. like husky, like I look
Yeah.
more like manly, bigger,
Yeah.
broader. And that was like a nice thing to hear
Yeah.
versus like, oh, wow, you got big. It's like,
Yep.
whoa, Ellie, you look so mature. Like you got
Yeah.
so strong. You look like you got so strong.
Yep.
And that the word, now she might have meant something different, but the
Yeah.
word is a lot nicer for me to hear. And
Right.
so one of the biggest things I would say to add on to your point, and then I have the last question of the day is, if you're surrounded by people who continues to comment on your weight, you as an
Mm-hmm.
adult freaking dictate every relationship as you're in your life.
Yep.
So you get to choose who you want to be around, and you get to choose how they are around you and what that looks like. So if someone
Yep.
is pushing your buttons and is treating you like garbage because of your weight,
Yep.
you don't need to be around them. I don't
Mm-mm.
care who they are. Make that boundary.
Yep.
Talk to them. And if it continues to happen, stop. Because
Yep.
that person is not someone that you deserve in your life. You deserve better.
Exactly.
Everyone deserves better than someone to be
Mm-hmm.
continuously nitpicking, like, oh, look at that. Oh my gosh. Oh, your hair. Oh my
Right.
gosh. Last question I have is someone's about to start the journey. They're freaked out.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, what do you mean? Diets are great. Keto's wonderful. I love starving myself. It's all, magical. Lauren, this is ridiculous. Come on. Eat what you want? Moderation? Health? That doesn't sound healthy. That sounds insane.
Hmm.
What would be like 2 to 3 tips that you would give someone who might be listening to this conversation who is on the cusp of trying to understand themselves and the journey that they've been fighting against for years with the waxing and waning of all the diets and fads?
Yeah. So I very rarely hear that they're obsessed with dieting, they love starving themselves, and they love keto and whatnot. In that scenario, I would probably just direct them to my Instagram, let them kind of learn and find their readiness on their own, because that type of person's very black and white and they're not ready to hear
I
what
was
I
being
would have to say,
sarcastic.
probably. I know.
I
Um,
love it.
but so the person that's really on the fence, I would ask what their fears are. Chances are they would say that their fear is gaining weight and fear of losing control. So from there, I would have a little bit of a conversation about, well, you have this fear of weight gain, and we live in a physical world. It's totally valid to feel that way because of what you've been taught. But how would it feel if you were able to do X, Y, and Z? And I would probably, if I was having a conversation with them, I would know a little bit more about what they were really struggling with, right? I'm constantly thinking about food. I can't go out to dinner and just order what I want. I'm always forcing myself to order the salad. It drives me nuts because I spend 4 hours every Sunday wasting my time trying to figure out what groceries I'm going to buy and what I'm going to meal prep, right? And then Wednesday comes and I'm so sick of what I already prepped, right? So depending on that conversation, then I would say, well, what would it look like if you didn't have to do that? What would it look like if you could go to the grocery store, you could buy what you wanted, you felt in control, you were able to buy the Oreos and also the salad and also the green beans and also the salmon and, a pie on the side, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you kept that food and actually it went stale because you felt in control, because you understood that you could have it and you could have permission to have it whenever you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And usually at that point, they're like, yeah, that sounds really freaking good. And some other kind of points, I'm like, do you want to be 80 years old wishing that you had the birthday cake at your daughter's wedding or whatever it is? Do you want to be 80 years old and thinking about how you still can't eat dessert when nobody cares what you look like by any means, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you want for your life? And is this currently included? You obsessing over food and your body? Is this going to get you where you want in your life? And usually they're like, oh gosh, now I really have some stuff to think about, and then there's also like addressing the aspect of like losing control. And that's really just me reassuring them that yes, there very well might be a point where you feel out of control, but that's part of the process. And as long as you continue with all of the tools and techniques that I'm giving you, then you will find that control.
Ooh. That last one with the birthday party thing, oh, that got me.
Yeah.
Right? Oof, that was a good one. Lauren,
Yep.
thank you so much for being on the show. I truly
Thank you for
love your
having me.
work, and I've
Thank
been
you.
waiting for this, and I know we have to reschedule a few times. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so excited that you're on the show, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you for doing the work you do, because I really admire dietitians, and I really admire the impact that a compassionate person can give to someone on the journey of finding what their body means to them and what their food means to
Mhm.
them. So,
Yes.
where can people find you? Where can they get to you? Where can they talk to you?
Yeah. So on Instagram, I am pretty much always there. I'm Low and Lemons, LO and Lemons. And then if you're a dietitian or anybody that wants help with building a business, I'm Laura Sharpe, Laur, Sharp with an E at the end. My website is laurenrd.com, and that's pretty much the only places I live.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.